Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fourth Down Fiasco, your go-to podcast for all things football, especially whenever there are playoff implications in the European Football Alliance. With me, as always, is Tanner Vinsky. Say hello to the people for me, Tanner.
Hello, hello.
And my name's Jordan Pryor. And yes, this past week in the European Football Alliance, the Prague Lions were unfortunately statistically eliminated from the playoff. Raiders Tyrol still in it, still has a chance. They win the game 41-29. A game that was relatively competitive through about 3.5 quarters.
Yeah.
So, any thoughts, Tanner, about what we saw with Prague and Raiders Tyrol? Because it was a good game.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because I think Prague could have won this game. I mean, we both picked Prague, and we were pretty confident about Prague winning. If they had either of their first two receivers out on the field, but not having Billy and Willie P, I mean, it was a death sentence for them, unfortunately. Henderson just didn't have any targets to really throw to. He didn't have a bad game per se, but I mean, 14 for 26, less than 100.
Did have a great game on the ground though, with 128 yards. I mean, it was, from what I saw, it was very much so 3 steps back. If there's nobody open, I'm taking off.
Mm-hmm. Which is, hey, I mean, when you're down your top 2 receivers, I mean, that's the game plan to go with. So, I mean, he did his best job, but obviously the passing numbers, like, you're not going to have anything when you're missing your top 2 targets. So when you're relying on wide receiver 3 to step up and be your wide receiver 1, I mean, there's not a lot of quarterbacks who can make that happen,
Yeah, and then also signing an import that wasn't an eye-catching name on top of, it's his first week with Jalen Henderson, So if this guy hasn't meshed all season, it's going to be difficult. I believe, what is his name? Lassane Jr. or Senior, excuse me. He had 5 catches for 36 yards. He did have the 1 touchdown.
I mean, again,
not a ton of production.
When we get into it with the Nordic Frankfurt game, we're going to talk about people stepping into their first week of European play and how that looks, right? So a lot of that's just you can't really blame Lassane too much on there. I mean, he at least comes with a score. It sucks that it wasn't a better performance per se, but I mean, it's his first week in Europe. How much can you do it? And it just a lot of Prague, like their offense just had to be so one-dimensional. It really was all on the ground. The passing game was completely gone. It wasn't really an element of this offense. Like I said, Henderson has less than 150 yards passing. Like, you're not really going to win as a football team if you have less than 150 passing, unless you have a 500-yard rushing game, right? If you have a game where you have like 6 attempts. I mean, what was that? It was the Patriots-Bills game, right? Where the Patriots won with negative passing yards against the Bills. I think I remember that. Yeah, I think it was a Mac Jones game. Yeah, he had like -9 passing or something, and they won the football game because they just ran all over Buffalo. So like it can happen, obviously, but in this game it wasn't going to happen. And Prague's defense is arguably the weakest in the EFA,
unfortunately.
So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I do want to shout out Raiders Tyrol defense though. Just they did a really good job. I know Jalen Henderson went off, but between him being the quarterback, and that's a little harder to stop down to down, especially in a league like this. Like we've talked about how athletic quarterbacks just thrive in these Euro leagues. But in terms of keeping the rest of the ground game in check, they did a pretty good job holding Zuzelka only to under 50 yards. They didn't fall for the jet sweep with Lassane Senior. I keep wanting to say Junior, excuse me. And had multiple tackles for loss. So I do want to give some flowers real quick to that defensive line and linebacking core with Raiders Tyrol, that they really did step up in this game.
No, 100%. I mean, Tyrol just had a great day at the office. I mean, all things considered, passing game was really good. Running game was really good. Defense stepped up when they needed them to. Again, defense had a little bit of an easier job because Prague's offense was so one-dimensional. It's just keep things okay on the run. Their receivers are probably not going to get open. So they had a little bit of an easier assignment, but still they did their job, right? Like you can't complain. Just because somebody shows up and they have an easier job doing their job doesn't mean you're not going to congratulate them, right? So, Tyrol did a great job, controlling the pace of this game. I mean, they were ahead early. They never lost the lead. Or I think they lost the lead very briefly in the – no. I think they had the lead the whole game. Regardless, if they lost it very briefly, they got it right back real quick. So it was a pretty dominant performance for Tyrol. And it was a game that we all thought was going to be a little bit closer. And even though it was close-ish for the majority of the game, it's a game we thought was going to come down to the wire. So the fact that it didn't come down to the wire and Tyrol was able to handle this despite, injuries on Prague's side, I mean, it shows that the reason they might make the playoffs is just because they've had this turnaround with Kenyatte Allen. And honestly, of all the teams right now, they're the hottest of the last four, outside of Munich and Nordic, right? So if you're going to take a team to go in the playoffs, I want the team that's hot right now, and that's Tyrol. Like, the rest of these teams are all free-falling. We see it with Paris, with Frankfurt, a little bit with Prague as well. So, yeah, I think that's just the situation that we're in. Like, it's, they still have to win their next game, obviously. They still have to make it happen in the last week. But, you look at how Tyrol played this game, and you're like, yeah, I could see them beating Paris,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and it really is just a testament to – this kind of feels like right before the baseball postseason, and it's always just about which team gets hot when, you know. And I feel like this is a really good example of, we thought that Raiders Tyrol were down and out the entire season. They really did just look like the least of the teams. And just this surge that they've had recently with Kenyatte Allen, and just kind of the swagger that they've had the past couple of games, that you want that going into any postseason. So,
absolutely.
At the end of the day, just with the way that the league is currently constructed, with the number of teams and it just being 4 seeds, unfortunately, I don't think that it's going to really matter how hot they are whenever they have to either face one of Munich or
Nordic. For sure.
But it's at least making the playoff, the wild card race exciting right now, which is nice. So, any final thoughts on Raiders Tyrol Prague Lions?
No, I think it's when you don't have your top 2 receivers, this is the result we probably all would have expected. It sucks that we recorded our podcast so early because we didn't know that was going to be the case for Prague going in. If we would have known that, obviously, I think we would have gone with Tyrol because we don't disrespect Tyrol that much. Maybe we disrespect them from time to time, but Kenyatte Allen's brought life to this team.
Yes. And Tanner just dropped off the feed. Not sure what happened there. But, yeah, to finish his thought, Kenyatte Allen has been just phenomenal, top to bottom. He's back. There we go. I finished your thought for you.
Cool, thanks. I don't know why it kicked me out. My internet's going, so weird.
Okay. Well, I'll keep an eye on that then. But, yeah, so unfortunately, Prague Lions, no Bealey, no Willie Patterson. Bites them in the ass. It's not anybody's fault. It was injuries, and that's you hate to see that happen. It's not like these guys were doing anything dumb and got suspended or got kicked out of a game. Like they just weren't there due to injury, and Prague really suffered on the offensive end with it, and now they're not going to make the postseason.
I mean, that's just football. I mean, you're going to get injured. Teams are going to get unlucky. The consolation to all these teams, none of these teams are going to beat Nordic and Munich. I hate to say that, right? But maybe you save some face. You don't have to go to the playoffs and get annihilated, right? So,
Yeah.
But it would have been nice. It would have been nice for Prague to make it there, especially after the turbulent history they've had. But it's also going to be nice for Tyrol to make it because Tyrol really hasn't made it either. So,
yeah, I mean, this is probably the most exciting stretch of Raiders Tyrol football that we've seen in the past 3 years,
probably. Yeah,
just in terms of an actual just consistent stretch of success that can lead them to a playoff. but as sad as it is to see the Prague Lions out, there are plenty of teams still on the docket that have the ability to get in. Paris Musketeers, who recently went out to the Munich Ravens. That was an unfortunate affair for Paris. They're still in the playoff race, though. They did kind of get that ass whooped out in Munich, though. And it's kind of the same issues that we've been talking about for the past few weeks. The O-line has just fallen off a cliff. This was a game that Tanner and I both had to actually watch film this week instead of watching the games live because all the games started at 5 a.m., at least 5 a.m. my time.
I was also on vacation this weekend, so
yeah, true. Yeah. At 7 a.m. on vacation, yeah, I'm not watching EFA football either. But yeah, just going back, and I was the one who watched most of the Paris Musketeer highlights, and it was a relatively good game from Zach Edwards. Really was trying to do everything that he could to will his team to a win. Managed to throw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, even though he got sacked 4 times. And I mean, it was 3 steps back, and he was getting hit. I mean, you can tell just by his rushing totals, a guy who is normally known for how well he handles the rock. What is it? 7 rushes for 10 yards, and did have technically negative 16 lost yards on the ones where he was tackled behind the line of scrimmage. Just a brutal game for this Paris Musketeers team who, dude, they just can't seem to get anything to work on both sides. I mean, Russell Tabor, 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, was sacked twice. One of the 2 times, it was because he was holding on to the ball because he was going to throw up a 50-50 ball and then just stood in there just a little too long. Mm-hmm. A dominant, performance from this Munich offense that just seems like there's no answers. You got Luis Geyer with 102 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. Malik Stanley, 76 yards and a tud. Sexton Dragon had a tud. Justice Seelig has 64 yards through the air, as well as an extra 25 on the ground. Rodney had some yards on the ground. Polar had 92 yards on the ground, and I believe that's their RB3. Just what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we looked at Tabor's stat line and it's been like less than 5 completions, 350 yards plus passing, 4 plus passing? Like, it's just been the whole season. So, yeah I don't know. Munich is really fucking good. I don't really know who's going. I mean, we know who's going to give him a challenge. It's going to be Nordic, but I have a hard time seeing Nordic beat Munich. I mean, it's just they're so talented. It's ridiculous.
They're super talented, and what I will say, whenever it comes time for that championship game between them and Nordic, the one thing that Nordic has that Munich also has against its competition is just the timing. Like, Munich's timing is just so incredible because these guys have been together for more than 1 year. It is beneficial to have a quarterback who sticks around for more than just 1 year before dipping out. And so I will also give Nordic that credit too of, it's going to be a close one. I'm with you. I don't see any end in sight for people stopping Munich, but I guess we'll find out next week.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, and we can get into this more later, I guess, but do you think that people are actually going to start in that game?
Yeah, definitely. Because,
okay.
Well, you got to think about it shit, actually, it might not really matter because it's going to be a neutral site. It's going to be a neutral site game in the final anyways. Yeah. So they're definitely not going to play against each other. It's a neutral site in the game anyways. They're going to get home field in the next round. I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, yeah, they might bench everybody. Honestly, if I were the teams, I'd probably do that. I'd be like, this isn't the championship game. Like, who cares about 1 and 2 seed? We're just both going to meet at a neutral site anyways.
Yeah, so. I wouldn't as well. I don't want to risk any injuries. No non-contact injuries. No, thank you. Don't need any of that. Let your guys rest a week.
Yeah.
And these are teams that have, especially Munich has a very deep team. And so yeah, give some of those young guys, some of those U21 guys that are kind of at the end of the bench on the team. Give them some run. We'll see what they can do. Give them some playing time. Like it's crazy to think about a development game in the EFA, but
well, and it's also the same thing with like Munich and Nordic too. Is I just look at the time slots. They're the first game next week, so they play before anybody else. So I was gonna say if they were the last game, then maybe you'd play because you're like, okay, we would rather play Frankfurt than Tyrol in the first round, so let's try to win this game, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. But they're the first game anyways, so it's like you're not gonna know who you're gonna play against. So why bother risking anything if it's not the championship game, Because
sure.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. They might. I mean, maybe they're.
Yeah, it is Euroball. These guys do it for the love of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like they might just be like, "Fuck it, this is going to be fun. Let's try to go all out this game." Then we just get to do it again in 3 weeks, So
yeah, I could see a world where Jadrian Clark's like, "No, I want to drop 6 touchdowns on them and have a middle finger up by the end of the game." I could see something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that we veered way off course. We were talking about Paris Musketeers in their great downfall before glazing our 2 soon-to-be championship game teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, any final words on the Paris game? Kind of the same shit that we've been seeing week to week.
Yeah, I got nothing much to add. Like I said, I didn't get to catch this one. I had to pick and choose with how the weekend went this weekend, and this was not the one I chose. But it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate result for Paris. They really got to win their last game, or they're going to get eliminated if they lose. I mean, yeah, there's no chance they can't lose and make it in. They got to win next week. So it's a shame. I feel terrible that Zach Edwards continues just to get destroyed in the pocket, and hopefully next year they can come in with a little bit better supporting cast for them. And, as much as I love Dean Faithful, maybe next year let's not use an E-spot on a kicker.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or, maybe we can just will our way to having Zach go transfer to a different team. Maybe, the Madrid Bravos, whenever they start playing.
Somebody's got to play for them. I'm okay. Like I said, I don't care who they put in as quarterback. As long as I got a team next year, that's all I care about.
Fair. Well, so the next game to talk about is the one that you ended up watching, Nordic Storm, Frankfurt Galaxy. In a frustrating game. I'll kind of just let you rant because you had some really good points in the pre-show.
Yeah, no. So you look at the score, it's 47-9, and you think, okay, well, Nordic just fucking belt to ass Frankfurt, right? Like there's nothing else to take away from there. Not exactly. Nordic played an extremely sloppy game. They had multiple turnovers through this. Clark had 2 interceptions. I think there was 2 fumbles that they had. There's either 1 or 2 that they gave up. They gave up multiple fumbles. They were turning the ball over. They were not on the same page. It was a relatively heated game as well because Clark actually got an unsportsmanlike for arguing with the ref. I don't remember exactly what they were going for. But, I'm not exactly going to fully put words in his mouth, but the lip reading, he was pretty pissed off at the ref. I'll say that.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was pretty hilarious. It didn't end up mattering because Frankfurt's offense was the most offensive thing I've ever seen in my life. Good Lord. I hope for Frankfurt's sake that Ethan Garbers decided that he was done playing football in Europe. And that wasn't a decision that they made to get rid of him and bring in a different quarterback. Because unfortunately for our boy Zach Calzada, terrible first week. Like one of the most disastrous first weeks I've seen from a quarterback in this league. It was so bad. The O-line wasn't doing him any favors. He didn't have much time in the pocket, but he refused to throw the ball away the entire game. Like just absolute refusal to throw the ball away, would try to throw it away too late. And it just created this impossible game state for the Frankfurt offense. There was just nothing they could do because the O-line would collapse and they would take an 11, 12-yard sack. It wasn't just like, oh, line collapse, take a 5-yard sack because you get tackled right away. It would be run out of the pocket, try to make a play, not make the play, get sacked. and it just ruined drives consistently.
Yeah.
And it was terrible because Frankfurt's like defense was actually playing pretty damn good this game. Like it was crazy. They got
three at least.
Yeah, at least 3 turnovers, man. And like they were making life like hell for Clark for once. Like you're not going to look at the stat line back. Well, he had 5 touchdowns, 440 yards. A lot of that came really late in the game. This game was 19-3 going into the fourth quarter. And there was 2 turnovers that Frankfurt got where they got the ball and their team was within the like 5 yards of the end zone. And both times, one of them they got a field goal, and the other time they just went 4 and out. And then they also at the end of the half also went 4 and out. So there was 3 trips they were within 5 yards of the end zone, and they just couldn't get it done. They couldn't punch in their slot, and it's just it was so sad too because Frankfurt, one of those plays they got, it was like a deflection pass. So it was a crazy play by Frankfurt. It deflected off of a screen pass that Clark was throwing. He deflected the ball, caught the ball as he was getting tackled. He dished it back out to him, like back out to his other guy behind him, and he ran it in for a touchdown. And again, that's to show that Frankfurt had so little trust in their offense. They're like, no, we got to lateral and get a touchdown here now because we're not going to get points. And they were right because they got called back because they determined it wasn't a lateral. It was a forward pass forward, which I don't necessarily think looking back at it. If you look at the play, it looked like a pretty clean lateral to me, to be honest. But they determined that it wasn't a lateral, and they walk away with the field goal at that. And they were down, I think, at the 2 or the 3. And if your offense gets down to the 2 or if your defense puts your offense on the 2 or 3 yard line and you don't get a touchdown,
you fail.
Your offense doesn't deserve to be on the field, like point blank period. Like it's just, that is just something that should never happen. And I know it's like, throwing stones from a glass house because, I watch the Pittsburgh Steelers in my free time and they've done that plenty of times in my life. But that's why I'm so upset for Frankfurt fans because I know what it's like.
You know that pain.
Yeah, I know what it's like to see Kenny Pickett go out there and not be able to get 2 yards, or Mitch Trubisky, or it probably would be the better comparison here. But I don't know. Like I could rant about it forever. It was so bad on all fronts for Frankfurt, and I genuinely think like if Garbers played this game, I think Frankfurt beats Nordic here. Like Nordic had a really bad game, and like I said, it was 19-3. It could have easily been 21-19 for Frankfurt going into the fourth. And then by the time the fourth quarter came, the defense is just exhausted. They've been on the field all game. They're fighting for their lives to give Frankfurt any chance to take this game, steal this game, get a win here. And if they win here, they're in the playoffs. They're at 4 wins. No matter what they do, they make it. There's no losing out. So this was a huge game for them, and their defense was playing for it. They were like, no, we want to make the playoffs. We're going to do this. But their offense was so pitiful that it didn't matter. And when you get into the fourth quarter and your defense has been on the field all fucking game, there's nothing you can do. And then on top of that, it looked so disgusting in the fourth quarter too, because not only did their defense fall apart and they gave up 2 drives at the end, their offense also just had a turnover that led directly to a touchdown for Nordic. And then at the very end, I don't know what Frankfurt was smoking, but they were like, oh, it's 41-9. Let's try to kick this 50-yard field goal to make it 41-12 with 13 seconds left on the clock. I don't know why. I guess they just wanted to see. I guess they were limit testing. Like, let's see how far our kicker can kick it. And I think Nordic felt disrespected by it because they blocked the shit out of it and returned it for a touchdown as time expired. And honestly, good for them. That was the right call. Like, if I'm the opposing team too, I'd be like, you're blocking that fucking field goal. These motherfuckers are really going out there to kick a field goal down 40 points. Yeah.
No, just take a knee, man. Just take a knee.
Take a knee. Just get out of there with your heads held up. And instead, you get even more embarrassed. It's all in Frankfurt too, so it's all happening in front of their fans. Oh my god, it was bad, dude. And it's a shame too because it makes the league so much more interesting if Frankfurt wins this game, and they have the potential to. But people that aren't keeping close attention aren't going to look at this game and say, oh, that was a close game. Frankfurt could have lost that one, or Nordic could have lost that one because the final score was 47-9. So I don't know. I don't know if we're ever going to find out why Garbers left Frankfurt, But if it was an actual GM decision of kicking Garbers out for a different guy and it's Calzada, yeah, you guys royally messed up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. Let me ask you this real quick before we jump into awards. Worst quarterback debut performance ever, him or Talia Tagovailoa?
I think it's him, honestly. And it's so crazy because you look at the stat line and you're like, Tanner, that's harsh. 14 for 35, a pick. That's harsh.
I mean,
You
Talia's first throw in the ELF was a pick six.
It was, but Talia made throws.
He did end up scoring some points that game. Sure.
And Calzada, I will give him credit here. He did have one drive. He got one touchdown. And it was a 48-yard touchdown. And you're like, okay, that's pretty good. A lot of it was yak. It was a blown up play.
Yeah.
That's it.
It was a 2-yard screen pass, right? Oh, and he just disappeared on me again. We're gonna go with 2-yard screen pass on that. That was taken 48 yards. I was asking if it was a 2-yard screen pass, right?
No. It was like a 10-yard pass. So like it was like a 10, 15-yard pass. Foster was just open in the middle. I think Nordic miscommunicated on defense. I think they sent two guys out to the left when they were supposed to have a spy kind of in the middle, and the spy kind of bit on a play, and Foster is just wide open in the middle and just streaked it into the end zone. So again, he had to make like a 15-yard pass, but a 15-yard pass down the middle to a wide open receiver, I'm not really going to give the quarterback too much praise there. I'm not going to lie,
Sure.
Like, again, it's good he made that play because it makes his stat line look way better than it should have. But no, it was tough. I mean, do we just want to move into awards and I could talk about it more?
Yeah, sure. So then you probably just want to jump into Fiasco then?
I guess we should just start with Fiasco because I think at this point everybody knows what we're going to say, and that is Zach Calzada as Fiasco winner. And again, I went and specifically looked at this game further because I wanted to say, okay, are we going to give it to Zach Calzada or are we going to give it to his O-line because he took 7 sacks? And we've shit on Frankfurt's O-line before. I got a lot of unsavory comments because I specifically on a lot of feedback on giving the center of Frankfurt a Fiasco award. And it's kind of turned into this thing where I kind of have to watch the center like a hawk and be like, okay, like, was I justified in doing that? And the center did give up a turnover again this game. He did do that. However, when he did do that, it was super late in the game. They're like on the 15-yard line, 10-yard line. I forget what it was. He just, when he snaps it, it just hits the ground. And it just kind of, it's a donut, right? Like it hits the ground, loses all momentum, doesn't get to the quarterback. However, and I'm not going to just shit on Calzada for this because Amlin was there too. Amlin and Calzada actually pulled a Cam Newton. The fumble's just sitting there on the ground and they both just look at it. Neither of them go down fast enough. Nordic picks it up. They're on the 5. Like, it's just something that if you're playing competitively, you should never do that, right? It should never happen. Even if it's like you mess up going for the drop, like if you see the fumble, if you just dive for it and you completely whiff the dive, respect, totally respect. You went for it, but
you need the effort.
But you need the effort. Like, again, I think nobody would talk about the Cam Newton fumble if Cam Newton dropped to the ground immediately and just fucking whiffed, right? Like, I think if he just like completely whiffed missing it, nobody would talk about it. But the reason everybody talks about it is because he stared at the ball and he didn't jump down on it immediately. And that's what Amlin and Calzada both did. And again, Amlin is looking straight forward. He's the running back. He's expecting to get the ball into his hands. I can maybe see a little bit of that. But Calzada is the QB. Like, I know you're overwhelmed in your first game, but like, come on, man, jump on the fumble. Like, that's something you got to do. And again, it sucks because it's your first week in Europe, and it's like, all right, we're picking on the new guy in Europe because he had a bad game. But it was an egregiously ugly game. I mean, there was, again, I got to give his rushing yards here too. He did have 65 rushing yards, but a lot of it was because he was so overwhelmed by how little time he had in the pocket that instead of trying to make plays in the pocket, he would just grab it and immediately run and tuck it down.
Mhm.
But the difference is when we saw Henderson doing that on Prague, Henderson was actually making plays and keeping Prague in it. Calzada was picking up 5-6 yards at a time.
Yeah.
Typically, he got a couple of first downs here and there, but I mean, he had 12 attempts. He had 12 rushing attempts, and actually, sorry, he had 41 net positive rushing yards, not even 65. He he lost 65 yards on sacks. That's what I'm looking at.
Oof.
Yeah,
Oof.
bad.
Bad day at the office. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it was yeah, and unfortunately, also like throughout the game, there was so many duck throws, like screen passes, just sailing it over the guy. Like a lot of the passes just looked kind of lazy, for lack of better terms. It's kind of like when you're playing catch with somebody and you're kind of just like, little flick of the wrist, like kind of just like you're throwing up a beat ball, and it's just kind of like just to pass it back and forth. Like there was plays in structure that looked like those. And it's just like that can't be happening at this stage. And again, a lot of that is on Calzada, but a lot of that's also not on Calzada, right? Because it's like it's your first week in here in a new offense, and you have to like operate the ship, and you've only been there for like a week. A lot of that's really hard to do. It's not the same thing as Kenyatta Allen, because I think a lot of people are going to compare the two. It's like, well, Kenyatta Allen walked in and did all this stuff. Well, Kenyatta Allen was already in Europe, and he was already with the Tyrol development roster, and he like understands the offense and knows a lot of the things that are going on there.
and also they also didn't play the Nordic Storm.
They also didn't play the Nordic Storm, which helps, right?
Yeah.
But dude, it's still such a bad day. And like maybe people are going to push back and say, no, this was not worse than Natalia performance, but I mean, watch the film. Like it's comparable at the very least.
Oh, definitely comparable.
So that's why it's got to go fiasco. Like I was trying to blame the O-line again. Like I'm just going to be completely honest. I was watching them like a hawk, and when I saw if there wasn't enough bad film through the first three quarters, that bad snap in the fourth by the center, I was like, I'm gonna fucking rip on this guy again, But unfortunately, it just wasn't his fault. Like you can't be taking 12, 15-yard sacks because you refuse to throw the ball away, especially against a team like the Nordic Storm. Especially when they're trying to hand you the game, dude. When they're trying to throw the game away and they're playing poorly, like, it sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah, tough one for sure. But welcome to the league. Welcome to the league. On a more positive note, our big dog and unsung both come from the same game, Raiders Tyrol versus Prague Lions. Lucas Hazelvanter is our big dog, had the trifecta, 3 touchdowns, had 52 yards on the ground. I believe he also had a catch. Yep, 1 catch, 59 yards and a touchdown. So 4 total touchdowns for our guy Hazelvanter. Huge game, just kind of all over the place. And honestly, a really balanced attack. Like when you look at a lot of these numbers, I mean, Tonko having 82 yards, Benatti having 34, and our unsung, not to spoil it, but Aaron Jackson, who had 105 yards through the air and a touchdown, did have the 64-yard touchdown play, which was just super rad. So yeah, just good times over with the folks out in Tyrol.
And we've been talking about it all year. The rushing attack that Tyrol has is awesome, and it's my favorite in the league. The 3-headed monster, Tonko, Hazelvanter, and Benatti, and Hazelvanter and Benatti have been there for a minute too, and it's just been fun watching them every year. And I understand why they've never moved past it, because it's effective, and you see in this game,
you get a little power, a little speed.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's the only committee in Europe. And I love that for them. They actually have a true running back committee. None of these other teams do.
Well, and I know we didn't see it this game, but Platscummer's been known to get some jet sweeps and things like that. Aaron Jackson, he's such a speed demon. Like, they have weapons on this team. They've really, aside from also needing a little bit more protection on the O-line, they've really just been needing a better quarterback play.
And they got it.
Dude, and Kenyatta Allen has been that guy. 346 yards and 2 touchdowns, man. Had himself well.
A lot of that's helping Tyrol too is they got Aaron Jackson healthy as well. Aaron
Yeah.
Jackson being healthy these last 2 weeks has been night and day for them.
Oh yeah,
He's
for
played.
sure. It makes everything else work because yeah, if you don't have Aaron Jackson, then hey, all they're going to do is just run it down my throat with Hasselvanter, Bernardi, and Tonko, and maybe have a Platzgummer screen or jet sweep here and there. I know how to game plan for that, but Aaron Jackson is just such an over the top threat, man.
He's a baller.
Yeah, dude, you miss one step on him and he's gone, bro.
Mhm.
Like he just has unteachable type speed.
He was the only reason Berlin was watchable for a couple of years there.
yeah, it was just him.
Yeah. I guess and Sullivan. I guess we can give
Well,
Sullivan.
yeah. Someone had to throw to him, I guess.
Yeah. But he was the most exciting thing about Berlin for a few years there, and
for sure. That's funny.
No, it's an awesome offense, though. I love Tyrol's offense. I love the direction they're moving in. Again, I don't think it's enough to get an upset win in the playoffs, but it's a great building block. And honestly, like as much as I love Aaron Jackson, like imagine the gadget plays you could have with his offense if you had Willie P as your A receiver instead.
True.
Like is it how they use him in Prague? If you could use him in Troll like that, oh my god. Again, I think Aaron Jackson isn't going to go anywhere, and I think Troll would be stupid to get rid of him, and I think they should keep him as the A. But if they could ever work that out from Prague to get Willie P here, I think Willie P would be insane for just the rushing dynamicism that they would have on this roster.
Sure. Well, you mentioned that it was good enough this week. It may not be good enough in the semifinals. We've talked about, but do you think it's going to be good enough against the Paris Musketeers?
Hey, look at that.
Hey, thank you.
Maybe we'll stay on the hot takes all through this episode, but I do think it's going to be good enough. I think especially at home as well. Paris has been on the downslide. Tyrol's been hot. I think I'm much more moved by Tyrol's offense. So, yeah, give me Tyrol.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. There's blood in the water right now, and unfortunately, Paris is on the wrong side of that blood being in the water, and I think it'll be a close one because I do think that our friend Magic is going to give it his all. He's not a quitter, and I think that him as a leader, other guys won't quit as well. But I don't know, man. This Raiders Tyrol team with Kenyatta Allen now it's a whole different team than it was 4 weeks ago.
They just got the momentum. Like,
yeah.
There's this thing in sports that like people don't ever really want to give credit to, but in sports, there's actually momentum and there's actually thought behind how the media talks about teams. I think a great example of this is we just saw it with the U.S. men's team, right? The U.S. men's team in soccer had a ton of momentum going through the first couple of weeks, and then the vibes became rancid after the red card appeal and everything. Like all the talk around it was so toxic and everything was just terrible, and it went from this like kind of underdog feel good story of like holy shit the men's team's actually winning games to look at this preferential treatment and all this stuff. And people always say that doesn't permeate in the locker room. Athletes have thicker skulls than that. None of that stuff gets to them. It does a little bit, and I think it definitely at least got to Belgium when they're like, oh, we're going to kick these guys' ass. Like, you're going to get their red card revoked, we're going to come in there and we're going to kick your ass, right? And they did.
Mentality is a huge part of sports.
Yeah, and so like a lot of it, people don't like to give it credit unless they're talking about Kobe Bryant, and then they're like, well, the Mamba mentality, and that's why he's the third best player of all time, But regardless of that, I was about to say something horrible. I'm glad I didn't go there. But a lot of people don't take credit for that, and I think in this game, I think there's a lot of that mindset and that mentality that's going to make a big difference here. Of Tyrol is riding the high, they have great momentum. Everybody's talking about how well they've been doing. It's just that's going to overtake the downslide that Paris has had. And I think just that mentality is enough of a difference maker that maybe Paris might be the more talented team, but when you catch the team when they're hot, it's really hard to beat them.
Sure. Yeah, I think emotions are on high right now. And, it is going to be a home game. And I will give Raiders Tyrol fans credit, man. They do show up for their team in those big moments. And so, I see a world where, I'm going to give it to Raiders Tyrol. I'm going to say they win by a touchdown. I think it's going to be like a 37-30 type of affair.
I'm going to give them 10 points. I'm gonna
Okay.
go 30-20.
Okay. So you think
But
defenses are going to do
I,
a little bit better today?
I think they're gonna have a little bit more of a day. But I do think it's still gonna be close, and I think it's gonna be kind of like one score game for most of the fourth quarter. Tyrol just pulls away a little bit at the end.
Sure. Um, well, so that's the Paris Raiders Tyrol game. I guess we're going to work backwards on our slate of games because that is the last game of the weekend. It's going to be Sunday at 8 a.m. my time. Frankfurt Galaxy traveling out to Prague to play the Lions. This one, I could see a world where the Lions, just because they're so pesky, end up stealing this one and ruining Frankfurt's playoff hopes. Um, but
I do think that's gonna happen. Actually,
okay,
after watching the Frankfurt game, Frankfurt ain't win a game. Like I don't care how banged up Prague is. Prague's offense can operate even just rushing, right? I don't
sure.
think Frankfurt. I think Frankfurt's offense is broken, like entirely. So give me Prague, even down to guys. You know, I feel like I do this thing consistently with Prague, where I get too high on Prague and I consistently pick them at the wrong times. Like I get high on Prague and I'm like, Prague's going to take this, and then I just get punched in the mouth for it and I regret it. But I'm going to keep doing it because I like Prague and I like the players on Prague. And I think even if they don't have either of the receivers, I think if they're still down both their guys, I trust in Henderson more. I know it sucks to boil down to rosters just down to the QB, but if you're going to give me a QB in this matchup, give me Henderson, give me the Prague Lions. It's also at home, and also I just think Prague is going to want to go out on a high note. Like
Sure.
it sucks that they got punched in the mouth and they lost that game against Tyrol, but I think at home they're going to have the fans behind them. I think Frankfurt's going to walk in that game depleted. And so give me Prague and give me Prague by 2 touchdowns. Let's go like 28-14 or 31-17, I guess. We'll throw some field goals in there. Why not?
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to be too high on it, but I'm going to kind of go with something similar. Yeah, I think I'll do 28-17. I think that's about what I'm going to go with. I think it'll be definitely a grittier game because there is going to be a lot of rushing because we know that Willie P is out for the season. I don't know if Bealey's coming back early or not. If Bealey comes back, then I'm going to pick Prague by like 25. But I'm going to.
If Bealey's back for this game, I think Prague is going to have a no time.
Yeah, but I'm gonna say that Bealey is still out, and it's going to be a rushing game. So yeah, I'll go 28-17.
Now, in this scenario, before we get into the last game, in this scenario, if Tyrol wins and Prague wins, the playoffs would then be Tyrol as the 3 seed and Frankfurt as the 4 seed.
Correct.
So Frankfurt would still be on a decline, would still be losing all those games, but they would still make the playoffs as the 4th seed. The only way Frankfurt doesn't make it is if Paris wins. And the only way Paris makes it is if they win. So Paris is eliminated no matter what if they lose. Frankfurt gets in no matter what if Paris loses. So
yes. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. That takes us to our last game. Munich Ravens traveling out to Copenhagen to face the Storm. This one's at 4 a.m. my time. I'm definitely not catching any bit of this one, no matter how hard I try.
Let's just manifest that backups are in this game, and it doesn't really need to be discussed, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know how to talk about this game just because there is such a high likelihood that they're going to bench at least the starting quarterbacks and probably your Glenn Tunga, Bo.
Your A's are probably all benched, right?
Yeah, Geyer. Like, I'm definitely not putting out my offensive playmakers for this game. Defense is defense, so you probably still have a lot of those guys play. I think that'll probably help to keep them not be rusty as well. But yeah, my offensive playmakers, I don't think I'm letting them play this game. So I don't even know how to talk about this game, but I'll just say that the Storm ends up evening the score on this one. It's going to be 28-24, and it's going to be a really dumb game with backup quarterbacks, but it's going to be really funny to watch.
Yeah, I guess we can give Danny one for once. I feel like we shit on Danny's all the
Yes,
time.
it's out there.
There's no way for us to talk about this because we don't know if they're actually playing or not. So let's pretend backups are in. Let's say Nordic's backups got the edge, and let's give Nordic the win here. And to make it look a little bit more interesting, so that way we got 2 9-1 teams rather than a 10-0 team going into the playoffs.
Sure. Yeah. I'd say that there were no teams with 0 wins, and there were no undefeated teams as well.
Yep.
That'd be good PR for the league.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're gonna go with a good PR.
Yeah.
And dude, honestly, the PR would look great in that scenario because you got 2 teams at 9-1, and then you would have every other team at 3-7. So
yeah.
Be kind of cool. Yeah. If this works out the way we say it does, if all 3 home teams win. But that's a balanced league, dude. 2 teams at 9-1 and everybody else at 3-7. It could be more balanced, but hey, that's not bad.
That's not bad.
Not bad for 6 teams. A lot of times when you're in a 6-team league, one of the teams goes 0-12 and one of them goes 12-0. So
yeah. So I'll take that not happening as a win.
Mm-hmm.
So well, cool. Any last thoughts before I wrap up the show for us, Tanner?
I don't think so.
Cool. Well, yeah. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. This has been Tanner and Jordan with Fourth Down Fiasco. Remember, you can always follow us on social media. We are at @4thdown_pod on Twitter and at Fourth Down Fiasco on TikTok and Instagram. But aside from that, got some exciting football this weekend, playoff implications. And this is Jordan and Tanner saying so long, and we will talk to you next week.
Hugs and kisses.